had always hoped for a change in Luna. As a mother, she had tried her best to guide and support her daughter through the turbulent times of life, but the path Luna had chosen seemed increasingly darker with every passing day. Lee had always believed that Luna could find redemption, that there was still a way to bring her back from the edge. But that belief, the hope that kept Lee moving forward, had finally started to crumble under the weight of the harsh truths that had come to light. Now standing at the crossroads of a decision that would irrevocably change both their lives, Lee was beginning to understand that the moment she had long feared had finally arrived. The revelation of Luna's pregnancy had struck like a thunderclap, a sharp blow to Lee's already fragile sense of hope. It wasn't just the pregnancy itself that devastated her. It was everything that came with its lies, the chaos, the drama that had ensnared Luna. It wasn't a joyous moment for any parent when they learned their child was pregnant, but for Lee, this revelation was more than just the news of an impending grandchild. It was the culmination of a series of events that had unraveled their lives in a way that Lee could not ignore. Luna's reckless actions had led them to this point, a place where there was no turning back. Every mistake, every poor decision had brought them here, to a point of no return. The weight of all those broken dreams, the endless disappointments, and the mounting sense of helplessness began to drown Lee's hope. Luna had always been a difficult child, her behavior erratic and often destructive. But Lee had held onto the belief that Luna could change, that she would eventually grow out of her rebellious phase, that somehow, someway, the girl she once knew would emerge from beneath the mess of poor choices and bad influences. However, with every lie, every secret, every consequence of Luna's actions, that hope began to slip away. The pregnancy was the final straw. It wasn't just about the baby. It was about the endless cycle of mistakes Luna seemed unable to escape. It was about the realization that the woman Luna had become was not someone Lee could save, not someone who could be rescued from herself. For Lee, this wasn't just about being a mother to a daughter in trouble. It was about the collapse of everything she had worked for, everything she had hoped to achieve in her life. She had raised Luna with love, with care, with patience, but it was all for nothing. Every lesson, every sacrifice had failed. Luna had chosen a path that was now leading to an unthinkable consequence, a tragic end. There was no way to undo the damage, no way to fix the situation. And in that harsh, unforgiving moment, Lee came to a devastating conclusion. It was too late to save her. The thought of losing Luna, of watching her spiral further into a life of chaos, was more than Lee could bear. She had tried to be strong, to be the guiding light, but it wasn't enough. No matter how much love she poured into her daughter, no matter how many second chances she offered, Luna had refused to change. And now, with the truth of the pregnancy hanging over them, Lee knew that it was too much, too heavy to bear. The dream of a better future for Luna had died, and Lee was left with nothing but the painful reality of what had become of their lives. As Lee sat in the solitude of her home, she felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her. The thought of taking such a drastic step was incomprehensible, yet it felt like the only option left. The pain of watching her daughter destroy herself had reached a breaking point. Lee knew she had to act, and she had to act now. She had no answers, no solutions, only the overwhelming sense that the end was inevitable. In her mind, there was only one place where they could find peace away from the world, away from the chaos, away from the endless cycle of pain that had consumed their lives. With trembling hands, Lee began to write her final message. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. She needed to explain herself, to leave behind a trace of why things had ended this way. Her family needed to understand why this was happening, why she had come to this final, irrevocable decision. She had to make them see that it wasn't just Luna's pregnancy that had pushed her over the edge, but the endless string of failures, the relentless cycle of destruction that had no escape. She needed to explain why she could no longer protect Luna, why she could no longer fight for her. The message wasn't just for her family, it was for herself too. A way to give meaning to the pain, a way to make sense of the incomprehensible. In the quiet of the room, Lee wrote. She poured her heart into the words, explaining the journey that had led them here, the hopes she had held onto for so long, and the realization that nothing could change the outcome. She told them that Luna's actions had ultimately led to their destruction, that no matter how much she had loved her daughter, she couldn't save her from herself. And then, she wrote the words that would change everything. She and Luna were going to leave, to escape the world they had known. It wasn't a choice, at least not anymore. It was the only way to end the pain, to find peace in the quiet away from everything that had caused their suffering. As Lee sealed the letter, she knew there was no turning back. The decision had been made, and there was no undoing it. She gathered her things, preparing to leave behind the life she had known, the life she had tried to build. It was a heartbreaking decision, one that no mother should ever have to make. But in that moment, it felt like the only way to end the suffering. Lee couldn't fix the world, couldn't fix Luna's mistakes, couldn't make everything right again. But she could end it all in the cycle of pain, of failure, of hopelessness. With one final look at the home that had once been filled with hope and love, Lee walked away. She and Luna would find a place of peace, a place where the world could no longer hurt them. It was the end of one life and the beginning of another, an end that came far too soon, but one that was inevitable. For Lee, this was the only way to stop the madness, to free herself and her daughter from the unrelenting grip of despair. And as the door closed behind her, Lee stepped into the unknown, carrying with her the weight of a decision that would change everything. Thomas Forrester's obsession in the bold and the beautiful reaches new heights. A potential murderous plot to remove Brooke Logan from Ridge's life forever. The intricate dynamics within the Forrester family on the bold and the beautiful have always been a hotbed of drama, manipulation, and emotional conflict. However, Thomas Forrester, the troubled and often sinister figure, has recently shown a new, more dangerous side of himself that could lead him to take extreme and violent measures to secure his family's happiness. With a history of psychological manipulation and an obsession with getting what he believes is rightfully his, Thomas's next move may involve a much darker plan than anyone could have anticipated: murder. Thomas Forrester has always been a man on the edge, with a mind far from stable, and recent events seem to have pushed him even further into the realm of obsession. His life has been a complex web of manipulations, betrayals, and scheming. One cannot overlook his past actions, including his unhealthy obsession with Hope Logan, or the many times he has used his charm and guile to get what he wants. Yet, his most recent plot may represent a step too far, a step into a chilling new territory that could change the course of the entire Forrester family. The dangerous mind behind the Forrester family. Thomas Forrester is not your typical charming, well-adjusted Forrester. Over the years, he has proven himself to be a manipulative and calculating force within the family. For all his supposed good intentions, he has always had a shadowy side on that has cost people their jobs, relationships, and, at times, even their safety. His relationships with women, particularly his obsession with Hope, have caused chaos time and time again. But nothing has ever been quite as alarming as the twisted way he now views the relationship between his father, Ridge Forrester, and Brooke Logan. It is not an exaggeration to say that Thomas's mind is a dangerous place. His troubled history of using psychological warfare to manipulate those around him has been well documented. But what if the next chapter in his disturbing behavior involves something far more extreme? Thomas's fixation on ensuring his father's happiness has always been evident, but it seems that now he is willing to go to any lengths to make sure that his father, Ridge, finally ends up with the woman he believes he belongs with, Taylor Hayes. And that means eliminating Brooke Logan from Ridge's life once and for all. A history of deadly intentions. The bold and the beautiful has never shied away from dramatic, sometimes fatal, twists in its long-running history. And Thomas Forrester's own history has included moments where his actions have put others at risk. A notable instance was when Thomas was involved in the death of Emma Barber, a tragic event that sent shockwaves through the Forrester family. Though it was not a direct murder, the circumstances surrounding her death and Thomas's role in the events leading up to it raised serious questions about his capacity for violence. But this time, Thomas's motives are far more sinister. In his mind, he truly believes that he is doing the right thing. He views Brooke as the poison that has slowly destroyed his family, keeping Ridge from the happiness he deserves with Taylor. It's not hard to see how someone like Thomas could justify a murder in his mind after all. In his warped perception of the world, taking out Brooke would be a heroic act. It would not be a crime, but a necessary evil in his crusade to reunite his father with Taylor. To Thomas, it would be the greatest gift he could give his father, the ultimate act of love. The perfect storm for murder. The situation in Los Angeles is ripe for a dramatic turn of events. Ridge is once again caught in the middle of his long-standing love triangle between Brooke and Taylor, a cycle that has defined much of his life. Brooke, as always, is likely plotting her own moves, trying to secure her place in Ridge's heart. And Thomas, he's lurking in the shadows, observing every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In this volatile mix of emotions and desires, Thomas is poised to take drastic action. His past has shown that he is willing to go to extreme lengths to ensure that his family's interests are protected, even if those interests are not the same as what others might want. He has manipulated recordings, orchestrated elaborate schemes, and played on the emotions of those around him. It's not far-fetched to think that his next move could be to eliminate Brooke entirely by any means necessary. The Logan Forrester war turns deadly. The beauty of Thomas's potential plot is not just in its simplicity, it lies in its intricacy. He is no brute force, no character who would kill in a fit of rage. No, Thomas is a master manipulator. If he were to go through with a murder, it would be calculated, deliberate, and would make it seem as though it was an accident. Perhaps a fall down the stairs at the Forrester mansion? Or a mysterious car accident on Mulholland Drive? The possibilities are endless and terrifying. Such an event would send shockwaves through the Logan family. Katie and Donna Logan would be devastated by the loss of their sister, while Hope would face yet another heartbreak, likely spiraling into a deeper emotional abyss. But Ridge, Thomas believes, would finally be free to pursue the woman he truly belongs with, Taylor. To Thomas's twisted mind, this would be a win-win situation for everyone of it, of course. It would come with the blood of an innocent on his hands. A bold, daring, and beautifully twisted change. All of this is speculation, of course, but it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. The Bold and the Beautiful has always been a soap opera that pushes boundaries, shockingly altering the course of characters' lives in the most unexpected ways. The idea of Thomas Forrester, the golden boy architect, turning into a cold-blooded murderer is a shocking yet plausible twist. It would turn the show into a whirlwind of emotional chaos, with the Forrester and Logan families torn apart by grief, betrayal, and the horror of what one man is willing to do for the sake of his twisted version of love. The real question is not whether Thomas would kill for his father's happiness, but whether the show's writers would have the audacity to let him do it. If they do, it would mark a new and terrifying chapter in the story of the Bold and the Beautiful, one that could have irreversible consequences for every character involved. It would also make Thomas Forrester one of the most chilling and unforgettable characters in the history of daytime television. As the tension builds and the drama escalates, one thing is certain: The Bold and the Beautiful is poised to deliver a storyline that will leave fans on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting the next devastating twist. Whether Thomas Forrester's obsession will culminate in murder or something even more shocking remains to be seen. But for now, we can only watch as this dark and disturbing plot unfolds, with Thomas potentially becoming the architect of a tragedy that could change everything.
Oh.